Welcome back to another edition of the Penn State 365 podcast. I'm your host, Richie O'Leary, and joined as always when we're talking wrestling, Joey Klender, the Penn State rivals, Happy Valley Insider wrestling analyst. Joey, some exciting news this week, as I guess every time we record, it's pretty exciting news. But Greg Kirk is coming back as the heavyweight once again. Just your overall thoughts on that and kind of like an instant reaction, I guess.
Yeah, I just want to tell everybody that my allergies have returned, so if I'm sneezing, I'm sorry. But yeah, Kirk's back. It's obviously really big for the team. Starocci and Bo coming back was obviously a big deal because you're getting a national champ and a returning finalist. But now you have Kirk coming back.
It's huge.
Oh yeah, huge. He had a super dominant season, won a national championship with a major in the finals. So yeah, I mean, the lineup's looking great with Kirk back. It kind of takes a lot of the question out of what they were going to do with heavyweight, which is great. And, indirectly, it gives the Mirasola twins a redshirt year, which is great. They'll get to come in and get some experience and maybe wrestle some opens and stuff like that. So it's good for this year, but it's also good for, a few years down the line because you're not going to have to throw a couple freshmen in. So, I don't think anybody is super surprised that he's coming back. I know that we talked last week on the pod about him coming back, and it just made a lot of sense. So, it's great.
Yeah, I know on our last pod we did some lineup predictions, but we've learned a lot since then. Just talking to sources and stuff like that. So I just want to go through the new lineup prediction with you. I'm going to pop up the little graphic I made before.
Yeah, go ahead.
So obviously at the beginning, Luke Lyledell. I don't know how to pronounce it. Lilladall. See, not even close. But yeah, we're just gonna go one by one with these guys. So Luke at 25, correct?
Yeah, Davis, from what I've been hearing and stuff like that, really had a lot of trouble getting down to 25 last year, towards the end of the year. From what I understand, it also kind of impacted his performance at the national tournament where he was the number one seed and did not All-American. So, Lilladell seems like a good option. There's also Kalen Macedo, I think is how you say his last name. He's also an option, but I'd imagine they'll redshirt him because Lilladell is really he's really going to be the guy at 25 for some time. I think he's obviously was a very sought after recruit out of Wyoming Seminary. He's he's done a lot of really great things in high school. He should translate really quickly to college ranks, and I think he'll have the spot.
Gotcha. Going to 133 is where it kind of gets interesting because you are returning Davis, who's probably going to go up in weight, but you also have Aaron Nagao. I know you kind of told me it could be either of them, or do we kind of have a feeling on which way it's leaning towards?
So from what I understand, Nagao had a lot of issues with that hand last year. It was wrapped pretty heavily a lot of the season, which is something, I always noticed, but, never really heard too much about it. So he was having issues with that hand and, also just transitioning from one room to another and coming to a new school kind of, it's a bit of an adjustment. So, I think it'll be interesting here. I think that Penn State's kind of got some flexibility in terms of, what they can do with 33. I think if I had to guess and make my best prediction about who will have the spot initially, it'll probably be Nagao.
Okay.
I do think that Davis brings a lot of, he brings a lot of versatility and, it's another option. Obviously, he wrestled super well last year, and him bumping up to 33, he's gonna probably be in a little better shape and just not as exhausted. And it's better when you're less weight. Sorry, my freaking allergies are killing me. But I think Nagao will probably wrestle a good bit early in the season, and they could even redshirt Davis. And then, if Nagao doesn't really work out and he kind of sluggish like he was this year, he's not really finishing shots, and they think that Davis can do a better job, then, I think they could go with Davis. There's also Kyson Garcia who's in the lineup, and he could wrestle 33 as well. But I think I think that it's going to be between Nagao and Davis this year, and I guess we'll just see what happens. But I'd expect Nagao to probably be the guy at 33 at least early in the year.
Okay, 141 pounds. They got Bo Bartlett back. He went. What was it? Third place in 2023, second place in 2024. Do we just kind of? Do you think that he has a really good shot, or at least a shot, I should say, at first place in 2025?
Yeah, I think he does. I mean, it depends what Mendez does too. I know he beat Mendez once, but he lost to him twice. Once in the Big Ten finals, once in the national finals. So, I think Bo's got a really good shot at winning it this year. I think he knows what he has to improve on and what he has to do better in terms of finishing shots, pulling the trigger a little more often. I think he can definitely do it. I mean, he's shown he's capable. I think more or less at this point, it's just a matter of, doing what he's capable of, and he's definitely got a chance at it. I mean, he's a great wrestler when he's wrestling his game, but, I'd expect Bo to win it this year. I just, the finals this year, it was kind of tough because I think he took more shots than Mendez from what I remember in the national finals. I think, he just got countered on that last one. It was a really, really good shot, and he just got, it was just what happened. So he's right there, obviously. So
next one's kind of interesting. 149 pounds. Tyler Kasich finished third last year, or this past season, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. But you don't have him in the lineup at all. So we're just
I think that they'll. I'm going to think he redshirts this year.
Okay.
But there is some speculation that that Levi Haynes could redshirt, and so that would maybe make room for Kasich to either bump up to see. The weird thing is I don't know if Kasich would be a great 57 because he's listed as a 41 and 49.
Okay.
But I think that gives kind of some it just kind of gives Penn State a little bit of play. But I would think that, if they want to come out and have the strongest lineup this year, you got to put Haynes in it. I don't know if it's completely out of the question that he redshirts, but I would like to see him wrestle 65. And I'd like to see Van Ness get 49 because I think that, if you redshirt Kasich this year, then you kind of have some more options moving forward down the road. And Kasich obviously coming off a great year. Van Ness took third, I guess you could say 2 seasons ago. Van Ness took third. Kasich had an outstanding year. He won a lot of fans, and he won a lot of people over. And, with Van Ness's knee injury, he's had that fixed. And, I'm excited to have him back in the lineup. So I guess we'll see what they end up doing. But I think Kasich will probably be a redshirt this year.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, I know you said he became a fan favorite. It probably has something to do with him being a Pennsylvania native too. It always plays a factor. But
yeah, I think there's a little bit of that. But I mean, to lose your first match at nationals and then win, 7 or 8 straight and take third. You also beat Ridge Lovett, and to get in that third place match. I mean,
huge.
You just win a lot of respect from people when you do that. And it's not just Penn State fans. I mean, it's pretty much everybody. I mean, when you win that many matches in a row after losing your first round match and you still take third, it's pretty incredible.
So now
a lot of people can do that.
Yeah. Sorry. Now the next couple ones, you kind of flip-flopped them a little bit. I see you got Levi Haynes, who national champ at 57, going up to 65, but then you have Mitch Messenbrink going down to 57.
Right. So, from what I understand, Haynes is not going to be able to make that 57 or doesn't want to make the 57 anymore. He's still kind of growing. And I think 57 was a bit of a stretch for him this year. It might have been a little hard on him. So Mitch is actually pretty light for 65. So he can make 57 pretty easily from what I've been told. It seems like him and Levi are going to switch to make the weight cut easier on Levi. And since Mitch has the ability to get down to 57 with really no issue, he could be the guy that takes that spot. Now, this is kind of tentative because I'm also hearing that Haynes could redshirt, which is what I've mentioned previously. But
Yeah.
I guess we'll kind of see what they end up doing there because obviously they have some play there. But, then you have to take into account that I'm not saying anything will happen here because the transfer portal is closed and everything. But, this David Taylor thing kind of throws a wrench into things in terms of recruiting and in terms of people might want to follow him. So you just have to be careful with what happens with that. So
that's what I was going to say. With all these red shirts, you got to assume a little bit of the portal is going to come into play, just because kids don't want to sit out anymore. Really, it seems like Olympics are different, of course. But the other question I had for you, and this just might be Bo being Bo, but so on her Instagram, I'm trying to share it now. Bo goes ahead and says 157 with the handshake emoji, and it's like, can he even get that much bigger? I don't think he can, right?
That would be something, but I think that's probably just him being a goofball. I can't see him going to 57.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'd be a little shocked.
But. I remember a couple of years ago he was wrestling 49, and he just had a real issue with people's size. So 57 would be really, really pushing the envelope there, but.
Yeah, that would be impressive.
I'm sure he probably walks around somewhere close to that. I'm sure he's pretty solid kid, so he might be in the 160s when he's walking around, but
true.
Yeah, I think he's just being a goofball there, but we'll see.
Gotcha. Facundo at 174 just won Pan Am Golds. Coming off a redshirt year, our Olympic redshirt year. How do you think he'll do in that weight actually?
I think he's going to be doing a little better up at 74. He really wrestled well at 65. I pretty much talk about this every time I talk about Facundo, but he wrestled really well the first half of that year that he was at 65, and just kind of, seemed to hit a wall at one point. I think his confidence kind of went down. I think it was the Michigan duel. He dropped that. I can't remember who he lost to, but I believe it was. It was someone he wrestled in the state finals, I believe, in high school, and lost that match. And it kind of seemed like that sort of disrupted his momentum. So, he's got a year of room experience now, a year more actually under his belt.
Yeah.
So, I'm expecting him to do really well this year, obviously, and I'm excited to see what kind of wrestler he comes out as, when the season rolls around. It should be super interesting, and obviously we still have a few months for them to all improve. So
yeah, some big shoes to fill though. And Carter Starocci,
absolutely.
So,
big ones.
Next one, youngster Josh Barr at 184 pounds, freshman last season, whatever you want to call it. Coming out from Michigan, won 4 straight Michigan State champions. So I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are on how he'll perform in year 1 or year 2, I guess.
But he wrestled a couple matches this past year and did super well. He's obviously ready for the D1 competition. He's super solid. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I think he gets at least 3rd next year. It's kind of a bold prediction, but he's wrestled super well, and he's been very impressive, and I just think he's only going to get better. But, I'm looking forward to seeing how he does. Obviously, with Bernie gone, it's a lot of experience and a veteran that's kind of leaving the lineup. But, I think Josh has a lot of potential. He's really shown that he's ready for this level of wrestling, and I really think that for the people that don't know about Josh Barr, I think that he's going to kind of open some eyes. I know that there are a lot of people that do know who Josh Barr is and how impressive he was in high school. I just think that if you look at this lineup from top to bottom, it's one of the best that Penn State's had. I can think back and remember 57 to 97 from 2013 to 2014. They used to call it Murderer's Row, and it's just this whole lineup is Murderer's Row, and Josh Barr is going to fit in fine. So,
Carter's making a leap to 197. I know, kind of shocked me when I first heard it. Is he going to be comfortable at that weight, and do you think he could still win the chip at that weight?
I do. technically, he's obviously a really good wrestler. And I think that Carter was up. Him and Mekhi Lewis were pretty good size for 74-pounders. Carter's going to just be, in my opinion, he's just going to be incredibly strong at 97. We talked last week about, what was it? He's off the salads. Now he's on steak and potatoes or whatever.
Something like that on his Instagram.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I just think he's going to be stronger and bigger, and he might not necessarily be faster, but I mean, I kind of think that he's going to sort of look like Aaron Brooks out there in terms of size, and I don't think that he'll have any problems. I'm really hoping that AJ Ferrari comes back, though.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping he comes back and wrestles 97.
Yeah, that's all we need. Is just more flair.
Oh, yeah. And I actually saw somebody on Twitter this past week say that Brooks and Carter couldn't beat AJ at 97, and that was just god level trolling, I guess, because that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, but whatever.
Yeah, it is something. Obviously, Kirk comes back. It's going to be the favorite, I would assume, just coming off a national championship. I know we already kind of talked about it, so you don't really have to say much, but feel free to any thoughts, I guess. Any other thoughts, I should say.
Well, heavyweight gets kind of interesting because Gable Steveson is potentially coming back.
Yeah, what I've heard, hell does he have a year left?
No idea, but he's got a year left. I know that he has MMA kind of sitting there, but from what I understand, Iowa's offered him some money to come back and wrestle heavyweight, and so he might not go to Minnesota. Obviously Gable's been out of the game for a couple of years, but I don't think he's going to have any problems getting reacclimated. That's going to make things interesting for Kirk if he does come back to wrestling. It's tough to say because, like I said, Gable's been out of the game for a couple of years. Obviously, he won Olympic gold.
Yeah.
He won a couple of national championships at Minnesota, but I mean, he hasn't been folk style wrestling for some time. But I mean, I don't know if that really makes a difference because he's really tremendous. He's super athletic, and in terms of a heavyweight, so is Kirk. I mean, these guys look like defensive ends. They don't look like your typical what people used to think a college heavyweight looked like.
Yeah,
there's not a lot of fat on it's not a lot of fat on those bones. So, but I think that Gable's got a lot of options. I mean, I know he could do MMA. I've also heard that he's getting contacted by a couple NFL teams to maybe come try out and maybe be a defensive end or, inside line or outside linebacker or something. I don't know. But if he doesn't come back, I really don't know who's going to be really close to him. I mean, I know that the kid that transferred from Harvard and went to Rutgers.
Yaroslav Slavkowski or something like that.
Yeah. I know that he's got another year. I think he's already picked a school. Is it Michigan?
He returned to Rutgers.
Oh, he returned to Rutgers. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, so they will see him again, obviously.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's coming back, and, there's a couple other guys that are coming back, but obviously you have Hendrickson, who's looking for another school. If I had to take a guess there, I would imagine he probably ends up at Oklahoma State. I knew that was one of his 4 visits.
Yeah.
I think the Magic Man effect will probably win him over, but
yeah,
I guess we'll see. But, yeah, I mean, without Gable, I think Kirk's pretty much the favorite there.
Smooth little transition there. Talking about our next topic. David Taylor is now officially the head coach of Oklahoma State Wrestling. Before we dive into everything else that's going on with that, just get your initial thoughts on him getting hired.
So I will be honest, I didn't see it coming. I knew that they wanted him. I knew that he interviewed for it. Yeah. I just thought that maybe with David having the farm, having M2, and then his wife having K2 roots, the smoothies. I think she's got 2 of them in State College now.
Yeah.
So. And just his, kind of roots that he's built around here over the past 15 years. I didn't think that they could throw any amount of money at him and he'd go, but obviously he took the job, and
Yeah.
I'm super, super happy for him. Obviously, it hurts a little bit. It is weird seeing Magic Man OSU and not PSU. That kind of stinks, but
Yeah.
it's definitely a little weird. But I think that David just wants his own. He wants to start making his own mark in terms of coaching. I think that maybe losing the trials this year
Mm-hmm.
might have solidified that maybe his international or like his competing career in terms of being a wrestler might be over.
Yeah.
Which I think is perfectly reasonable considering what he's accomplished. I mean, he's won multiple world championships. He's won Olympic gold. He was obviously incredibly successful in college with
Mm-hmm.
4 national championship appearances in the finals, 2 championships,
Yep.
4 team titles. I mean, this is a guy who's also a tremendously thorough and high level technician who is going to make a difference in any room that he's in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's obviously a huge pickup for Oklahoma State. It makes things very interesting in terms of the world of wrestling, because you have to think that the team title really it wasn't close this year. And I don't think a lot of people expect it to be close this year.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, David's going to have a huge influence on recruiting. And, he's got Jimmy Kennedy with him. He's got Thomas Gilman with him. I'd imagine that somebody else is going to go in terms of a coach.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a monumental move. I mean, it's tough to put into terms what this kind of is the equivalent to in like other sports. But I mean, this is really, really big.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to change things a lot. I mean, especially within 5 years' time, you're going to see Oklahoma State really become a force within the wrestling world again. And that's what the fans should want. I mean, it shouldn't be a 1-horse race and then everybody's fighting for second every year. It's just not fun. There's no suspense to it. I mean,
it's kind of fun from one angle.
It's great. It is great for some, but I mean, even as if I take a step back from being, a guy who writes about Penn State wrestling and I look at it from a fan perspective, like, sure, it's great, but like, is it really that fun year after year when you're just like running away with it and there's just no challenge? Like, yeah, maybe it is for a little while, but I mean, it just is like, this is so good for the sport in terms of it growing, because I think, some people would probably rather watch, 3 or 4 teams. From a casual fan perspective, I think people would probably rather watch 3 or 4 teams fight for a national championship than Penn State runs away with it and, I'll tune in Saturday night for the finals because they're just going to walk away with it. I mean, it's like, yeah, it's great, but like, is it good for the sport? Maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm really happy for David. I think he's a great dude, obviously, and I hope I can still message him on Twitter every once in a while and get some fantasy football advice from him because he's been very helpful with that over the last few years. But yeah, I'm stoked for him. And I was never an Oklahoma State person, but I will be pulling for them a little bit for the years to come as he's there.
So you mentioned before he did bring Jimmy Kennedy. He also brought Thomas Gilman in with him. Jimmy Kennedy, obviously coming from Penn State. Any ideas how they kind of replace him?
I think they have options. I mean, there's obviously guys that can fill that role. Jimmy's done a lot of work with the lighter weight, so you can't really look at like Aaron Brooks coming in and being like, the guy down there because, I remember at Big Tens, I mean, he was really working a lot with Bo and Davis and just the lighter weight guys. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess there's options. I mean, if I had my own pick of who could come back and replace Jimmy Kennedy and kind of take over that lightweight role, I think I'd want Nico Megaludis to come back. I'm just not sure that he's really super interested in relocating to State College and becoming a coach full time. But I just think that in terms of what he's accomplished and how he fits the mold, and I mean, he's a super hard worker. He's probably this isn't to take away anything from anybody else, but I mean, like Nico had such a great pace and was just such a great hand fighter, super physical. And I think that's kind of what you don't necessarily need that from your guys, but I think it's nice to kind of have that in the back pocket when things get a little scrappy and stuff like that. I just think Nico would be a really great guy to kind of fill that role, but I don't see it happening. So yeah, I mean, obviously you have Cody Sanderson still in the room, which is big, and you have Casey,
Sure.
which is, I mean, I think Casey is really like nothing, not to take away anything from Kale and Cody, but I think Casey is really the guy in that room who does a lot of the I guess the more new-sure things. I mean, he's super solid technically, and Kale kind of is the game plan sort of guy. So I don't know. I mean, I'm interested to see how they fill those shoes. I mean, obviously they don't need to do anything with Gilman. Gilman was just a resident athlete there for the most part, and obviously a guy you really like to have in your room. But I guess we'll see. Jimmy's done a lot for Penn State in the last few years that he's been here, and obviously it was nice to have him here because he's married to, or David's married to his sister. But I feel like it was kind of expected that he would go. So
Adam Lynch, director of ops, kind of just sitting there.
Yeah, I think he'll probably stay in that role.
I know Zane Rutherford's there. He's a resident athlete too, technically.
Right.
So
Nick Lee as well.
Yeah, I forgot about him.
But then you have to think, are those guys going to be so focused on making world teams, making Olympic teams that are they going to want to pull away and kind of devote some time towards the team itself? And that's obviously that's a big commitment. So I'm interested to see what they do in terms of filling that role. I mean, it sucks that it sucks that you're losing a guy who's obviously been super solid as a coach and everything. And I guess we'll see what they do from there.
Well, this is where it gets interesting. Carter Starocci's tweet the other day. I was offered a big payday too. I said, go wipe your ass with that money. When it comes to money, people switch like the weather. Not me, period. Loyalty is everything, period. Nothing is built without trust, period. PSU versus Oklahoma State in the football stadium, period. National champs 10, matches to 0. Just, I guess, original or thoughts on that. Because I didn't see that one coming.
Well, there's a lot to unload there. But, I mean, initially, I don't think he realizes how many people he's backhanding with that because
oh yeah,
are we going to act like Cale Sanderson didn't leave Iowa State for a bigger payday in State College? I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, Tom Ryan left Iowa, became Ohio State's head coach. Like, it's the name of the game. I mean, I'm sorry, but David doesn't owe anybody anything, and I don't think that he needs to wait 20 years for Cale to finally hang it up to accept the Penn State job. Like, this is a job offer that, from what I understand, he was offered hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. I've heard $800,000 a year to coach this team. In what world is anybody be like, well, $800,000 be great, but I'd rather be loyal? It's like, no, okay, the guy's got 3 kids. He's got a wife. I think that when an opportunity presents itself to you, like, you just have to take it. And I think David did that. And I think he made the right move. I mean, eventually, bold prediction here, but I think when Cale relinquishes that job, David will be the first person they call to interview, especially if he does super well here. And I don't think he'll bat an eye at that. I don't think he'll be like, well, I've been at Oklahoma State for 15 years, whatever. I just want to stay here. I don't think that's going to happen. I think if David gets offered that job, he's coming back to State College. I just feel like that's probably pretty, I would imagine that the Penn State job's probably his dream job. I just don't understand what the point is of getting upset at somebody who is your teammate and who is probably your friend for doing something that's really good for their family and going to set them up. I mean, whatever. Carter's obviously a pretty brash guy, and he's entitled to say what he wants. So it's, it's great. And I think it's good to kind of stir up some bull crap to get people talking and whatever. I also think that he's brilliant for trying to get Penn State to wrestle Oklahoma State in a football stadium. I think a Beaver Stadium match is just going to be absolutely insane.
Yeah. I know I was talking to someone that was at the stadium the other day, and they said they were talking to they knew a ticket rep. But this is a guy that's like maybe right 6 out of 10 times, so take it for what it's worth. But yeah, he said he was talking to one of the ticket reps, and he's telling me it's happening. Like this is 100% happening. They don't know the details yet, or whether it's going to be like I said before. Some of these, I know Rutgers did it with Princeton. They had a football game later at night. They had a wrestling match at noon. So that's a possibility. I think that would be the best possibility because you'll get the parking lots would be miserable. So maybe not the best possibility for us. But yeah, no, that would be even with the parking pass, it's brutal. But I think it'd be awesome to get you might be able to fill the stadium. To be honest with you, if you do it before a football game, I think there's a legitimate shot. But getting people in and out of that stadium, like, hey, all right, hold on, we got to switch to football now. I think you just gotta It's like a free for all almost.
Yeah, it'd almost have to be like a 2-for-1 deal. Like if you're coming for the wrestling match, you're staying for the football game because there's no way you're going to sell tickets to one and tickets to the next. Unload everybody, get whoever's not staying for the football game to leave, and then have football traffic come in because if a football game's at 8 o'clock at night, people are there at 10 a.m. getting drunk and tailgating.
Yeah,
so it's just
it'd be awesome though.
I just feel like this would be so big for a multitude of reasons. One, obviously, you're filling up. Is it the second biggest stadium in North America behind Michigan?
Probably, if I had to guess.
I don't think there's anything. I think it's the third biggest stadium in the world or fourth biggest stadium in the world. I think the biggest is in China now.
I'm going to look it up real quick. It's a good question.
But I think Michigan's slightly bigger.
Michigan's third at 107, and Penn State's fourth at 106.
Okay.
There is technically 132,000 in India, and then North Korea Stadium with 114,000. So, yeah.
Wow.
Still crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, who knows if they're going to sell it to be like, I mean, we've seen it in the past, and we talked about it last week. You put them at one end zone, and you kind of fill up, from the 30-yard line in, and the end zone around the 30 on each side. That's still a substantial amount of people in Beaver Stadium. So it'd obviously be super cool. And then you add the narrative of Carter's talking crap about David Taylor, and David Taylor just left Penn State to go to Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
There's a big storyline there. It's a lot of drama. I think you're not only going to get a lot of Penn State people, you're going to get a lot of Oklahoma State people, which is super cool.
I think the average wrestling fan would just show up too, just because it's.
Oh yeah.
How often is this ever going to happen?
I think a lot of people would consider showing up to that. I mean, I know people that don't really follow wrestling super religiously, but know about it, and I think they would probably entertain going. But
yeah,
I mean, there's just a lot of storylines here. I mean, obviously, Carter coming back is really big because nobody really expected him to come back. And, there's obviously a lot of opportunity for him here to be the first ever 5-time NCAA champion.
Yeah.
So that's a super big storyline. But then, you factor in all this drama that's kind of come up over the past week, and, it becomes a super, super big deal. It's good for the sport in general, which is really a nice thing to have. You're going to get more people in a stadium and more people in seats. And I think that's what people want. I mean, it's hard enough to get Penn State wrestling tickets. I mean, I know people that, go to the BJC duel every year, and they've never been to Rec Hall.
Crazy.
It'd be something to say, I went to the Penn State Oklahoma State match in Beaver Stadium, and obviously David coming back to State College for the first time as a coach is a big deal. So,
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things here that really, it's pretty incredible what this next season could bring, just in terms of all the different storylines. So I guess we'll see. But I mean, Carter's really hyping it up, that's for sure.
One of the other storylines, which I forgot to mention before, are apparently Mark Hall interviewed at Oklahoma State for an assistant job too. So that could be another.
I believe it was Oklahoma as the director of ops.
Maybe it was
I did
Oklahoma.
not.
Maybe I read it wrong then.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think it was Oklahoma State.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So actually,
Okay.
this works out better because we were done talking about Oklahoma State. So now we're talking about Oklahoma. Yeah, it seems like they're just losing resident athletes left and right now. So it's interesting.
Well, he's at University of Pennsylvania. He's not at Penn State, so that's good. Yeah, he's been in Philly for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, you're right. Wow. Okay, never mind. Take it back.
Yeah,
but still former Penn Stater, so it had to be mentioned.
yeah, absolutely.
The last thing I got, Aaron Brooks got in trouble for taking Adderall. What the hell?
Which he has a prescription for.
That's that's insane. And number one, like, who brought it up? I guess, but I guess it's a failed test technically. But if he has a prescription, it shouldn't be a big deal at all, right? He should still wrestle.
You wouldn't think. Right? Yeah, you wouldn't think. But I mean, how many guys have we heard about in the UFC taking like a pre-workout and then it has some crap in it and it's just a regular pre-workout? I mean,
yeah.
I don't really know how they navigate those things because you'd think if a doctor says it's okay for him to have it, then it's okay.
I mean, Adderall of all things too. It's like it just doesn't seem like a big deal, like, especially if you have the prescription too. I mean,
and there are people that actually think that the staff at Penn State knew about it and didn't tell David that he would fail a test. There are people actually speculating that. I'm not saying that's true because I don't really believe that they would do that, but there are people saying that, and I think that's kind of. I just really don't think that would be a thing. I mean, obviously it's awkward when you have two guys from the same club who train together and they're in the same room and they're competing for an Olympic spot and they're the last two who get a chance at it. But I don't know. I'm interested to see. I'm interested to see if more stuff kind of comes out about this whole David leaving thing. I don't know. This is just me talking here, and you know, all this is obviously speculation, but you have to wonder if there was maybe some hurt feelings or something, and maybe David saw that, you know, this is my time to go. Like, you know, Aaron's been training with David for years and really helped him prepare for Yazdani, and you know, obviously was a tremendous help because they knew all of Yazdani's tendencies, and at a certain point, David had completely eclipsed him.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who, before David came around, was pretty much the man at that weight. And David really, I think, at one point in a total of 8 matches was 7-1. I think the only match that he lost was the one World Championship match 2 years ago. So, yeah, you have to wonder what the storyline is here because obviously there's a lot of moving parts here. And, you know, it could be as simple as it was time for David to hang it up and it was time for him to take on a new challenge, a new opportunity and make a name for himself. But there's also you know, the Brooks thing, and then there's this drug test that's kind of looming. And I'm interested to see what the feelings are in terms and if it'll ever come out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't really want to say too much more, but
yeah, no, I get it. I had to ask you about it. It is news, so of course. But anything else really? Penn State wrestling related? I think we're kind of that's really it. I mean, we kind of went over just about everything. I feel like.
Yeah. I don't have anything else.
All right, cool. So David Taylor, Magic Man, is gone. Penn State got Kirk back. New lineup predictions and all that. I'm sure we'll be talking again soon, whether it be recruiting or something's going to pop up. Maybe they'll announce the Beaver Stadium game. Who knows? But yeah, for me and Joey, that's another episode of the Penn State 365 podcast. Signing off.